Hi everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. This is Kathy. I am back with two more cards using the Mae the Mouse stamp set from Honeybee Stamps. And I did not show the stamp set in my last video, so I thought I should definitely do it in this one. So this is Mae the Mouse, and I was very excited about all the little accessories like the overalls, the chef hat, the apron, and then all the little candies and other goodies that go along with it. And this is the Brie Mine stamp set. I love how you can build the sentiments the way you want to build them, and there are coordinating dies to cut out the bigger words. And I also used the Stacking Hearts honey cuts. Get a lot of dies in this set and they cut wonderfully, and I love the shape of this heart. So let's get started. So I literally just did a video on Fun Flock, but I already had it out on my table and I thought that these little mice really needed to be fuzzy. So I do have a lot of this sped up because I already have a video on Fun Flock. I'll be sure to link that up in the top right hand corner for you because there are a lot of tips and tricks and techniques and whatnot that go with the Fun Flock. For these two cards, I did one that was, more pink, more girly, and then I did one with more blues, so it was a little bit more geared towards boyish. And the boyish card is actually a gatefold card, and I do show how to do that towards the end of the video. I almost left the flocking part, and I only show the flocking for the gray mouse. I almost left it out of the video, but I kind of missed a few spots, and I wanted to show how I was able to fix that. So the first thing I did obviously was stamp the image, and then did just a quick layer of color over the entire mouse, and then highlighted her little ears and her nose. One thing that I don't think I mentioned in the first video that I did with Fun Flock is that you do want to make sure that you lay down or get all of the coloring done before you apply the Fun Flock. I wasn't sure what color to do her tail, so I didn't do that until after I did all the flocking. It wasn't that difficult, but it is definitely easier to do all of the coloring first. After I had my first base layer of color down, of course, I just kind of went over it with the glue so that I could get it ready and get her all fuzzy. I had a little bit of glue go where I did not want it to go, so I just used a sharp tool to scrape that up. And with this Fun Flock, I'm still thinking about all the other things that I can make fuzzy, so there's probably going to be a few more Fun Flock videos as well. And this is about where you're going to see where I made a little mistake. As I was burnishing the Fun Flock after the glue had dried, and I know it doesn't look like I let it set very long, but I did wait for the glue to dry a bit. This poor little mouse had a few bald spots, which I was able to fix. So after I did the first round of burnishing, and then I went back and I did my second stamp just to reinforce the stamped lines, I did end up going back in with a little bit more glue just to add Fun Flock to her chest there, and then there was a spot on her face too. I'm not sure how I missed the glue on those spots, but I was probably watching a movie, because I always have a movie going on while I'm crafting, and it's usually a movie that I've seen at least 158 times, so I don't actually have to pay attention to it. I think it's more just to have background noise going. So here I'm adding a little bit more glue around her ears because the flock there was a little bit thin, and then the spot on her face and her chest. Once all that was dry and I reburnished it, I die cut her with the coordinating die and started working on the card. This patterned paper I had actually previously cut. I was going to use it on my monster card, but I changed my mind on that design, so I figured I might as well use it for this one. So I adhered it down to a piece of white cardstock and then cut both pieces out with a stitched rectangle, adhered that to a piece of pink cardstock, and then adhered that to a top folding white note card. It's an A2 size, which that's my go-to size for a card. Now for the accessories, for the little apron, I stamped it on patterned paper and I fussy cut that out. And I just love how the die cuts around her arms, so I was able to place that apron behind her arms And then the chef hat, that was pretty much, you know, I just did shading under the top of that. And then I colored up a chocolate chip cookie, which made me think of my sister because she loves to read the book If You Give a Mouse a Cookie to her grandchildren. And I didn't show the coloring for that, but I will have all of the colors that I have used. They'll be listed below in the description, as well as over on my blog. I'll be sure to link to the coordinating blog post as well. And of course, I had to use foam tape to get that little mouse popped up on the front of the card. And after that, that pretty much finishes up the first card. For the second card, I do not show the flocking again, simply because, well, I already did, and this one was actually how to fix errors with Fun Flock. But I did do a gatefold card, and I thought that I would leave that in so that I could show you how I do a gatefold card. To do a gatefold card, you will need a piece of 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock, and I used 110 pound cardstock for the gatefold card. And you're going to score it at 2 1/8 inch, and then at 6 3/8 inch, and that creates the gate. And of course, burnishing the score lines definitely helps as well. So after I did that, I had cut some patterned pieces of cardstock and solid cardstock to add to the front, and there it wasn't lined up quite right, so I just folded it and then kind of moved my bone folder at an angle, and that actually straightened it out really well. Now when putting the little strips of paper on the front of the card, I actually have the inside of the card down on the table. So that's actually the top of the card that you're looking at. It's just easier to adhere the cardstock that way because it lays more flat. And then I flipped it over to make sure that they were even, which they weren't, so I pulled that up pretty quick. By the way, that chocolate brown cardstock is, it's milk chocolate cardstock from My Favorite Things. And oh my gosh, I love that cardstock. It's so thick, and I really like that cardstock. And I'm picky on my cardstock. So my little mouse has already been all fun flocked and whatnot. And I thought that he would look ever so cute in a pair of overalls, and I had a piece of denim cardstock in my stash. So I stamped the overalls and then just did a fussy cut and then adhered that to the little mouse there. For that little heart, I just used one of the coordinating dies, and then there are these tiny little sentiments that you can create conversation hearts. So I stamped love you on that. I used the stacking hearts for that blue heart and decided that it needed to have stitching around the edge. So I just used a brown marker and just did quick stitching. And then it was time to finish putting the card together. And here's a thing: when you do a gatefold card, you want to make sure that you only put adhesive on half of the front piece, in this case the heart, which I have actually glued gatefold cards closed because I forget that it's a gatefold, put adhesive on the whole thing. So that's just one thing that I really needed to remind myself and pay attention to. And of course, more foam tape for that little mouse there. And after I have him coated with an incredible amount of foam tape, I put him on the front of the card, and that finishes up my second card. And that's it. I have 2 more videos using Mae the Mouse. I hope you'll tune in to check those out. They'll be up hopefully within the next few days. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you would. And we will see you next time.